Hey everyone, welcome to episode 203. Hi Omar, long time no see.
Yeah.
Episode 203 of the All Dolphins podcast for this beautiful, maybe Friday, January 19th, 2024. Today we are going to be talking about the divisional round of the playoffs as it relates and as pertains to lessons that can be learned by the Miami Dolphins, what it means for the Dolphins, past, present, and future. Check it out. It's gonna be interesting because I got some thoughts here, and I'm sure Omar's going to agree with everything I say. And we want to engage in any lively. I'm kidding. We're going to have a live.
As we always do, there are only 8 teams that remain in the playoff equation. The Dolphins were one of the 12, but obviously they pooped the bed against the Kansas City Chiefs.
14. Come on, Omar. 14.
14, I'm sorry, 12 played. My apologies. My apologies. Um, they pooped the bed against the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, they didn't move forward in the playoffs. But right now, there are 8 teams that are going to be playing for the right to play in their AFC and NFC division championship. We've got the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers as the number one seeds.
Omar,
Yes.
we're bypassing the history lesson here.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. My bad. My bad.
Can't do that for those who like it. And if we get a bunch of comments saying stop it with the history lessons and none saying we do like it, continue, then we'll stop it. But for the time being, we're still on the plus side. So episode 203, so it's going to be the 2003 season. This was after the Dolphins had failed to make the playoffs in 2002 at 9-7. In 2003, they improved their record. They were 10-6. Ricky Williams had another really good year with 1,300 and something yards rushing, but he was overused. And the Dolphins wound up 10-6, and they were one of those unfortunate teams to not make the playoffs despite a 10-6 record. It also happened in 2020, if you recall. Brian Flores' second year, the Dolphins finished 10-6, didn't make the playoffs. And if you think that sucks, there also have been, I believe it's 2 instances in the NFL where a team finished 11-5 and didn't make the playoffs, including
What teams?
so including the 2008 New England Patriots, who lost to the Dolphins for the AFC's title in a tiebreaker. Patriots, if you forgot that, Patriots still wound up going 11-5 with Matt Castle at quarterback because Brady blew out an ACL in the opener, except the Dolphins won. I don't recall if it was division record or conference record, but Dolphins had the tiebreaker, and the Patriots lost out on the wild card tiebreaker and were left out. So it's happened in 2003. The Dolphins, who had a good year, the crushing loss was a Monday night loss against the Eagles that I believe knocked them out of the playoffs. And then they wound up 10-6. I can't think of anything else that really jumps out. I know Adewale Ogunleye had a really, really big year as a pass rusher opposite Jason Taylor. They had a great set of bookends. Ricky Williams was a star offensively, and again, it's tough to call it like a season of failure when you go 10-6, but they didn't make the playoffs.
Man, well, you know what stands out to me about that season, other than it was Ricky Williams' last until he came back from his weed smoking hiatus. It's that Jay Fiedler had a 72.4 passer rating. In today's game of the NFL, a 72.4 passer rating is Josh Rosen caliber bad, and that was a winning quarterback.
Yes, why? Interesting. You should say that. Are you perhaps referring to the analysis piece I wrote for AllDolphins.com on Thursday, where I point out that Jay Fiedler had a brilliant winning percentage as a starting quarterback in his first 4 seasons with the Dolphins, who still felt the need to upgrade at the position because he wasn't quite good enough.
And they upgraded it with Brian Griese. Woohoo!
Brian Griese was a backup. Fiedler was still the starting quarterback in 2003. They wound up 10-6. Brian Griese did start a game. I believe that was a season that they had a game against the San Diego Chargers, moved to Arizona because of wildfires. Got switched on Monday night in Arizona. Brian Griese was a starting quarterback, or maybe it was always Monday night, I'm not sure. And the Dolphins wound up winning that game pretty handily. But now the Dolphins, we mentioned the divisional round of the playoffs. Dolphins haven't been in that round since 2000, of course, when they beat the Colts. That's the last time they won a playoff game. And they're not there this year. And we can look at those teams, and there are Dolphin angles and lessons to be learned. Go ahead. I'll go ahead. The first game on Saturday is Houston at Baltimore. And if we're talking Houston, we have got to discuss Come on, you know what I'm talking about.
Do we really have to discuss CJ Stroud and how amazing he is?
No. I'm not talking
Oh,
about
you
CJ
talking
Stroud.
about the Laramie Tunsil trade?
Sure, I'm not talking about CJ Stroud and how the Texans, who are very, very young, who clearly have a hell of a coach in D'Amico Ryans, who have a complete baller in CJ Stroud, are going to be an issue in the AFC for a bit now. No, but we need to talk about Laramie Tunsil and the irony that he's making the playoffs, or sorry, getting a playoff win before the Dolphins are after that trade that produced so much. So I guess my question to you, Omar, in retrospect, is there any part of you whatsoever that regrets the deal?
No, because you've got younger, cheaper players. Are they same caliber as Laramie Tunsil? No, but at that time, that was where you were as a franchise. What I really don't like or feel uncomfortable with is the fact that the Houston Texans were bad for 2 years and then became a playoff team. But really, it takes a quarterback to elevate you there. Unfortunately for Miami, the process has taken a little bit longer. We watched joint practices with the Houston Texans and the Miami Dolphins. They were a very comparable team. And I will make the argument, CJ Stroud, obviously he made some drastic improvements as a rookie because he wasn't that impressive during that training camp. Now, clearly he was still learning the offense and they're still trying to find their footing in as a team, but he's certainly not the quarterback that I saw in that joint practice at the end of the season. And hopefully you get that kind of development. The one thing that I did like about watching their game, them beating the Cleveland Browns, is they're using a lot of play action and a lot of movement plays. And I think that benefits him, suits his skill set. But that's not every quarterback. And the challenge with that is eventually teams will catch up to it. Now, clearly he's in the playoffs and all it takes is one win and he advances, and he's going to be facing a team that might be a little bit rusty, but they're still a powerhouse in terms of the Baltimore Ravens. We saw them up close and personal, and I will not argue with you if you said that the Miami Dolphins are a finesse team when compared to the Baltimore Ravens, because that certainly fits. But will rust be a factor for them, and can Lamar win the big game? And that's what we've been saying about certain quarterbacks who shall be remain nameless. But Lamar,
whoa, hold on. No, the question with Lamar is, can he win in the playoffs? Because he's won big games, or did we forget the game at San Francisco and then the smackdown of the Dolphins?
Yes. Can he win in the playoffs? Soon that will be the narrative for Tua as well, just like it's the narrative for Dak. You eventually graduate to, oh, can he win big games, to, oh, can he win big games in the playoffs?
Well, we're still on step one with Tua, if we're going to be honest about it. Are we not?
Okay. Well played, sir. Well played.
And by the way, I'm going to bring this up a few times during this episode, because I am sure you will agree, Omar, that a measure of quarterback success, along with one loss record. Yes, I mentioned it. However, it's not end all be all like some people, and it's not always the first.
But it is a stat that we do keep to. Okay, thank you. Appreciate you for acknowledging that.
For whatever reason. Anyway, one of those would be performance in clutch situations, and as part of an analysis piece I did on Tua on alldolphins.com on Thursday, I examined and went down career passer ratings for quarterbacks in the last 4 minutes of games when trailing. And much to my surprise, I've maintained all along that Lamar Jackson's passing is obnoxiously, what's the word I'm looking for? Downplayed, ridiculed, and all that. It's really obnoxious. Is the only way to put it. And I won't mention names, but if you're out there, you know who you are. And guess what? Of all the quarterbacks I looked at, and I looked at pretty much all the big names, Lamar Jackson easily has the best career passer rating when trailing with less than 4 minutes left. It's over 118. Think about that for a second. And for the record, this is where part of my argument for the Dolphins keeping their option opens until Tua reaches the next level. Part of that issue is that Tua's numbers in those situations are not good. His career passer rating is 68. And this is where Omar on yesterday's podcast says, I think brought up Brock Purdy as a system quarterback, and I said, well, guess what? Brock Purdy's career rating, even though it's a very small sample, but his career passer rating in those situations is 52. So maybe there's something to it. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not buying the Russ factor. I'd be shocked if the Ravens don't easily handle the Texans, even though I think the Texans, because they're young, because they have a good coach, because they have a quarterback who's a baller, and it wasn't just a playoff game against Cleveland. He played great in the game against Indy to get into the playoffs. I think they're going to be a problem for a while. And Laramie Tunsil, to answer my own question, yeah, again, the package that they got for him, it's easy to play the results now. It's ironic that Tunsil wins a playoff game, and good for him. He's a good dude. I like Laramie, but again, and even Chris Greer said it at the time, that, yeah, the Dolphins 2019 rebuilding thing, tanking, whatever you want to call it, was dumping a lot of veterans who were toward the end of their career for draft picks, wherever they were. Ryan Tannehill, Robert Quinn, and there were several others. I don't remember, but I don't think Laramie Tunsil was part of the plan because he was still fairly young at the time, except that according to Chris Greer, the Texans kept coming back to him with better and better offers to the point where, again, you got 2 2s for an offensive tackle, 2 1s for an offensive tackle, among other things.
Worked out pretty well for the Houston Texans. And here Miami is paying high-priced player Teron Armstead who can't have that same level of stability and execution at this point. Hey, you make your bed, you lay in it. And I don't have a problem with the Tunsil trade. I just, 2 2s, I'm sorry. And I'll be real honest and transparent. There probably aren't many people in the NFL that I would trade 2 first-round picks for. So I would take the offer if I were Miami as well.
Correct. And the thing is we mentioned, like, the Texans were able to get back there. First of all, it took them 4 years. And number 2 is they benefited greatly from being able to trade Deshaun Watson and finding a trading partner that would give him a whole bunch of draft picks. And that allowed them to land not only CJ Stroud with a number 2 overall pick, and then Will Anderson with the 3rd overall pick. So they nailed the QB, and they got some other picks, and they've also, like, built up some talent through the years, and that Deshaun Watson trade obviously worked out very well for them.
That's a good balance, and you got to build. What I like about both teams is they both are regenerating teams in terms of, even though the Ravens are an established team, they're still morphing into a younger team. Now, there are exceptions to that, like, for instance, Dalvin Cook, who replaces Melvin Gordon in that backfield. Are you curious to see what Dalvin Cook has now that he's actually playing with a team that actually has a quarterback?
I am, but I'm more curious about what's his role going to be. Is he going to be the 3rd guy behind Gus Edwards and Justice Hill? I'm not sure he takes snaps away from them. It's if they need a 3rd guy more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how much he has left because we didn't see that much against the Jets. So it'll be interesting to see how that process plays out moving forward. Let's move on to the next game, the next Saturday game, which is the San Francisco 49ers are going to host the Green Bay Packers. Everybody who's followed me for a while, they know I love the 49ers style. I love their smash mouth mentality. Definitely think that they've taken the next step with adding Christian McCaffrey. And now we will see whether or not they're Super Bowl contenders, because they've always been at the doorstep. They just haven't necessarily won that game or gotten into the final round. But now they got to dethrone a Packers team, which is led by Brian Flores' Jordan Love. I say he's Brian Flores' Jordan Love because those who know, they know that Brian Flores was kind of infatuated with Jordan Love and preferred him over Tua Tagovailoa. And at first it was laughable. But right now, with Jordan Love having the Packers at the doorstep of advancing to the NFC Championship game, I think he's getting the last laugh.
Yeah, he could do a victory lap, and here's the thing: it wasn't just
a victory lap, really.
Over that one, so far, over that one, he got to play, dude. He got a playoff win, and in his first season, getting action. See how the way ended the season, and it wasn't just a playoff game against Dallas where he smoked the Cowboys. The same Cowboys team who played in Miami, mind you, where the Dolphins scored 22 points.
Best win Miami's got.
Sorry?
That's the best win Miami's got on their resume from 2023.
I understand, correct, but that's the same. So Dallas at Miami, the Dolphins scored 22. In Dallas, Green Bay scored 48. And it wasn't just that game. Jordan Love, now you go back to the last 9 games, I've said this before, 21 touchdowns, 1 pick. That's some pretty good stuff. And if you saw some of those plays against the Cowboys on Sunday, yeah, there were a lot of defensive breakdowns. There were also a couple of passes where he's got guys zoning in on him. He's about to get completely obliterated, hangs in there and throws a ball like on the money. The dude was like, wow.
So would you prefer Jordan Love over Tua Tagovailoa? Don't do me like that. Back to
right. If right now I had the opportunity to make a trade.
Yeah. You know what I'm gonna say? It's always about the arm strength with you.
It's not about all about the arm strength. It's about the ability to make plays when everything is not ideal. Okay, and you can take 2 over him if you want. That's fine.
I will.
Okay, and in the San Francisco case, I'm having the borderline slam dunk to get into this to get to the Super Bowl because I think their overall talent is superior. I said, like I said already, I don't think Brock Purdy is as good a quarterback as his numbers might suggest. I think he benefits from having an insanely stacked team. One of the best, maybe the best left tackle in the NFL, best or second best tight end in the NFL. Top 5 all-purpose offensive player with Deebo Samuel, best or second best running back in Christian McCaffrey. That's just on offense, and their defense is completely stacked on top of it. There's no team in that conference.
Did you include Trent Williams? Did I miss that?
Yeah. Okay. I said the best or at least top 3 left tackles in the NFL. I mean, that team's a joke. It's completely stacked. There's nobody. Detroit's good, but I think at some point Jared Goff, even though, I mean, props to him for coming up big at the end of the Lions game, but I don't know that he can elevate the Lions over the 49ers and make up for that gap in ability. Maybe once we get to the Super Bowl, whether it's Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, now we got a different story. But I don't see anybody getting them.
You know what I found interesting about Sunday's 3 p.m. game, which is going to be the Detroit Lions hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. Both of those quarterbacks are pretty much entering contract seasons. Jared Goff, he's entering the final year of his contract. I believe he's set to make $23 million. We know generally teams take care of quarterbacks who are entering the final year of the contract. And then Johnny Manziel, he took a 1-year deal gambling on himself with Tampa Bay.
You say Johnny Manziel. What?
I'm sorry. I always say Johnny Manziel. Baker Mayfield. I always say Johnny Manziel. I don't know why I always correlate them together. Baker Mayfield. I think that Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff's new deal will set the market for Tua Tagovailoa. And I'm not of the opinion that Tua is going to get this $50 million deal or contract. I mean, the way that Chris Greer scoffed at Adam Beasley's questions, and Mike McDaniel even joked that Adam Beasley's, what is he? Is he Tua's agent when he mentioned $50 million, which is what Tua's peers are getting.
That was more like how dare you ask us what kind of money we're going to give him? I think that was more about that. But go ahead.
I think they both scoffed at that price. As would most people who have eyes and logic. I think Tua is a good quarterback. I think Tua is a quarterback worthy of an extension. Would I pay him $50 million a year? Absolutely not. He has not proven that because he's not in that elite category of quarterbacks. But neither are Jared Goff and
Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, I'm about to say Johnny Manziel. I always say Johnny Manziel. It's like a brain fart that I have. Baker Mayfield. Now the question is, whose defense is going to step up in that game? You got two former Dolphins interim head coaches going against one another, and I don't think people downplay that. You got Todd Bowles, who replaced Joe Philbin, and then you have Tony
Sparano.
Todd Bowles replaced Tony Sparano, and then you've got Dan Campbell, who replaced Joe Philbin. Mm-hmm. Which coach are you riding with not the roster, but the coach. You've seen them both up close and personal. Who is a better coach in your opinion?
I think Dan Campbell is a better coach. Because his team, and it may be like, it may be rah-rah BS, but his team is going to come to play. And I mean, every single solitary day. And even though at times you can question some of the game management decisions, I think, and the fact that it's in Detroit, crowd's going to be jacked. I think Detroit's got a better overall roster. I have a hard time, and this is one of those I'm not going to. By the way, on one of the comments, somebody took issue with the fact that somebody asked us in the live chat if I was rooting for KC of Buffalo, and I said the Bills, and then somebody got all in their feelings about it. Sorry, it's a game that's got nothing to do with the Dolphins. Sorry if that offends you. I'm rooting for the Bills. In this case,
I want to see the Bills win it as well. I do.
And in this case, I want to see the Lions. My right now at this particular time, my dream Super Bowl would be Buffalo and Detroit. I don't think it's happening because I like I said, I don't see anybody stopping the 49ers from getting to the Super Bowl. I do think Buffalo has a legitimate shot, although they keep taking hits on defense. You want to talk about injuries? Their defense is starting to look like what the Dolphins' defense looks like with all the hits they took. Like Terrell Bernard, who's a really good linebacker, got hurt. One of their DBs got hurt again. I mean, they just keep taking hits. Anyway, I do think the Lions are a solid pick there. And Jared Goff is interesting. He's another guy. And if we're talking about the whole thing, part of the premise of my column, my analysis piece on Dolphins.com about Tua and what the Dolphins should or should not do regarding his contract this offseason was that there have been other quarterbacks who have had success statistically and one-loss record that teams have moved on from. And Jared Goff is a prime example of that because Sean McVay was looking at his team. Oh, we got a really good team here. Jared Goff's done some good stuff. We need better. Boom, trade for Matthew Stafford. They win the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, I don't think the Lions are they didn't get chopped, what's the saying? Chopped liver. They got Jared Goff, and it took him a little while to develop, but right now he's playing clutch. He's playing like he's a quarterback who's led teams to playoff victories before, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, so has Baker Mayfield. He's led his team to playoff victories before with the Cleveland Browns. So that battle of former Dolphins interim coaches, it's going to be one of the more interesting, watchable games during the slate of the weekend. But then we get to Sunday.
One last thought on Tampa Bay, Detroit. This is what I put on Twitter. Would be cool actually if they had Jim Bates to do the ceremonial coin toss.
Because my God,
Jim Bates was the interim head coach in 2004 after the Dolphins fired Dave Wanstead. So, and in fact, I want to say those are the three interim head coaches in Dolphin history. Jim Bates, Todd Bowles, Dan Campbell, unless I'm forgetting somebody. I don't think so.
No.
Okay, last game of the weekend.
Bills versus Chiefs. This is going to be Patrick Mahomes' first road game in the NFL. Can you believe that? He has never played a road game. He's always played at home or in a neutral field. I don't know if the weather is going to be a factor in this game, but I definitely know it's going to be a showdown of two elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Who you got? I know who you want to win, but who do you got?
I think the Bills are going to wind up winning it, even injuries and all. It just feels, and again, this is not great analysis. It just feels like it's their time. I mean, they've been knocking at the door. They had the Bills beat 2 years ago, and then 13 seconds happened. And then this year, all hope looked like it was lost at 6-6. All of a sudden, they run off 5 in a row, wind up with a division, the number 2 seed. They finally get the Chiefs at home. And Josh Allen said, well, by the way, that same stat about passer rating when trailing 4 minutes for those who are in the camp of, sure, Josh Allen runs the ball really well, but he's not a good passer. He's inaccurate. Well, his passer rating when trailing with less than 4 minutes left for his career is 98.8, which is pretty damn good. And he's just, and the thing that one of the things that the Bills have done since they made their change at offensive coordinator is they've allowed Josh Allen to be Josh Allen. That means, am I wrong? That means run the ball as opposed to Josh, We want to protect you, save your body.
I
Don't
think
run.
it's a little easier to run the ball when it's win or go home, as opposed to I need to play one of 17 games this season. That it's a little bit different.
Oh,
I
that's
think
fair,
I
but
think you'll see Patrick Mahomes scrambling a little bit more too, just because that's when these elite quarterbacks and there is this infatuation now with athletic scrambling quarterbacks or quarterbacks that have the ability to do damage on with their legs. And while it's not the style of team that I would build, I could definitely see why it's really in vogue right now, especially in the AFC. I'm of the opinion that Kansas City's defense, which you saw absolutely lock down and clamp down an injury decimated Dolphins offense. Yes, I'm going to say injury decimated.
yes, you are.
They look like they are elite. They've got good edge players, they've got respectable safeties, and that defensive line with Chris Jones anchoring it down is very difficult to run on, which is why I'm probably going to give Kansas City the edge, especially if they can get Travis Kelce greased up and going. Obviously, I guess Taylor Swift is going to be in Buffalo, so hopefully he's going to be motivated to put on a good show for his girlfriend, because I didn't feel his presence that much in the Dolphins game, and really he's just had a relatively quiet
Yes.
end of the season. His brother just retired, and maybe you have to wonder if
He hasn't made it official yet. In fact, he said he did say, "Hold off. Can I make the announcement myself?" But yes, all signs are that he's retiring.
yeah.
But he got pissed off because they, just like Jalen Ramsey returning from his injury, somebody else broke it before he got the chance to.
On his own podcast.
But I'm gonna double down, because since you like the Chiefs, I like the Bills even more. I think especially you of all people, considering how many times you've talked about Josh Allen, I think it's another game where he's going to completely ball out, and he's going to be the difference in that game.
He is. They are two dynamic quarterbacks, and they play very similar styles. Josh has a little bit more size to him, but Patrick is just as dangerous scrambling with his legs. I just like Kansas City's defense over Buffalo's defense. That's where I sit in this situation.
Right now, without question, because the Buffalo defense intact is really, really good, but there's a mesh unit right now. And for Dolphin fans, if I'm gushing about Josh Allen, sorry if that offends you, but if you can't recognize that the dude's a complete baller, I don't know what to tell you. And guess what? Dolphins are going to have to deal with him
for the next decade.
For another few, correct. And is it by accident the Chiefs have won 8 straight division titles in the AFC West? Or could it be since they got Patrick Mahomes? Was it a coincidence that the Patriots kept winning AFC's title after AFC's title? Oh, because they had Tom Brady. So Josh Allen is a problem for the Dolphins. He's going to continue to be a problem for the Dolphins. And instead of ripping him at every chance when he has games when he sprays the ball, which yes will happen.
Yes,
I think you do this with Josh Allen. I mean, respect. So
yeah, absolutely.
On that note, this is where we point out that I am heading out of town this weekend to celebrate my son's 15th birthday. Little family outing. Yep. Little family outing.
Driver's license?
Sorry?
Letting them get a driver's license?
No. So there will not be a podcast on Saturday or Sunday. We will be back at this on Monday, which actually his actual birthday is on Monday. So
okay. Well, obviously, you know how to find our work, alldolphins.com, where you can find all the necessary material for free, no paywall. You know how to find us on every audio platform. It's All Dolphins Podcast, and we are right here on YouTube, our preferred home, since they actually pay us the most money. So we thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we will see you on Monday.